world, which is always difficult.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, started recording. Cool. Right, now I've got a thing that's appeared on my screen. Hang on a sec. Get on. There we go. Right. So yes, hi, I'm Ian. I'm Mr. Cookfulness. I provide sort of cooking therapy advice talks for people who find cooking either difficult or don't want to do it at all. What I thought we'd do today is sort of break things up, because you don't really want to sit and listen to me rabbiting on for an hour and a half. So what I thought we'd do is I'll do a little bit about me and about the sort of way that I've approached cooking. Then we'll make something. Then I'll have a little chat about nutrition, about what that really means, and then we'll make something. And then I'll show you some of the sort of gadgets and gizmos that I use that I've sort of built up over time, and then we'll make something. So I'm going to make 3 dishes with you. I'm sat on a chair at my sort of kitchen table, so I haven't got any heat for this. It's all going to be made just in one little blender, all 3 dishes, one after the other. So just to show you what you can make, just using literally one plug socket. So if everybody's happy with that, I will start with a bit about me. I worked in financial services for many years, and then my health deteriorated sort of over time, and then quite dramatically to the point where I had to give up work, and pretty much most things stopped, family life, etc. And it was really cooking that gave me the impetus to start looking up again. Cooking for me was, well, maybe I can get back with my family, maybe I can be a bit more visible, a bit more present. And I thought, yeah, cooking's the way. And I used to cook, thought this is all right, I can do this. Got in the kitchen, nothing worked, complete disaster. And it just wasn't working for me. I mean, it's just inaccessible. There's too many hot things, boiling things. It's very, very difficult. So just so you know, I live with functional neurological disorder, and arthritis, and then also anxiety and depression. And the mental physical battle that goes on in your head and in your body is always a challenge. And when you've got somewhere like the kitchen, it can be very difficult. So when I first tried cooking, it wasn't working at all. I just couldn't do it, and I couldn't understand the cookbooks. It just wasn't happening. The brain fog was just, this is wrong. So I wanted to give up, but my wife said, no, you're not giving up. You're going to have another go at this. So we tried it, and I tried different ways to achieve doing this cooking business. And I found ways that worked for me gradually over time. And then as soon as I'd made my first dish, it was like a hallelujah moment. It's like, this is brilliant. And my kids were looking at me going, yay, well done, Dad. And it gave me such a boost to my sort of mental health that I thought, wow, this is great. So I started putting these things together and created a cookbook called Cookfulness, which I self-published, and hoping that it might help one person. And it sort of grew to the point where it started being sort of picked up all over the place. And then I was asked to start doing cooking demos off the back of the book. So this is what I now do. I do cooking demonstrations and talks for people for across all walks of health and wellness and well-being, because at the end of the day, I think we all need to eat, and we all want to cook. Some of us want to cook more than others. I don't know where you are in your cooking journey, so to speak, whether you love it, hate it, would like to do more, who knows. But I think that the issue that we have to deal with is that every single day is different. So how you're feeling today might not be how you're feeling tomorrow, and therefore you need to be able to have the ability to sort of flex and adapt how you cook. But that includes everything from ingredients to the equipment, etc. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of the things that I've done that I do slightly differently. Before I do that, I just want to say, if there's at any point you want to ask a question, please just ask. Please just throw something in. I'd like to know this, or put it in the chat, whatever's easiest, because it'd be nice just to sort of fire off each other and ask questions and share ideas or whatever as we go. So if there's anything at all, then it might not be about what I'm talking about, please just ask, and then we'll chat as we go, and then we can have time for questions at the end anyway. So I came up with these 12 steps that I'm not going to go through 12 steps. I'm just going to explain a couple of them to you. And when Nina sends around the recipe cards, this will come with it as well, so you can see what these all are and how it works. Picking out a couple of them, one of the things I found when I was cooking was that finding the time to be able to do it, because things take time, they take longer to be able to do cooking, and it really sparked off a recipe book that I opened, one of my favorite books, and I opened it up and it had the cook time and the prep time, which is fabulous, but those prep times are only really useful if you're in the same health and fitness as the person who wrote the recipe, which, let's face it, we're not. So when you get those books, what I found was that I was taking so long to prep things that I felt I wasn't doing it right, or why am I not doing it at the same speed as other people? And it immediately got me on the back foot. So I brought in a give yourself time. So it's cook time, prep time, give yourself time. And it's just that extra buffer of time that you can give yourself that says, yeah, I'm going to plan for an hour here to do this, rather than trying to think it's 20 minutes cook time, 15 minutes prep time. And then you're stuck because you're sort of starting to feel the pressure of time on you. So give yourself time is about giving you that time to sort of take a breather, take a step back. But it's bigger than that. I don't know how many people use timers. Do any of you have timers that you use when you're cooking? I think there's a nod or two. I didn't used to. I used to just do it and then you go for it. But I find that I forget so many things now. I can't remember what I put where. So I use lots of different timers. I use my phone because it's got a timer on it. I use another one I've got here, which is a timer that you can attach to, it's got a magnet on the back of it. And I use the ones on the oven. And I'll often have 4 or 5 of them going on at once because I just need a reminder of when things happen. So giving yourself time is also about reminding yourself of timing. I'll often have something in the oven, like maybe a chicken in there, and I've forgotten when I put it on, and I've forgotten when it's ready. And you think, oh God, am I going to undercook and poison everybody? Or is it going to be like as tough as old boots? So just giving yourself that space, that time is really, really helpful. One of the other things that I am very keen on is smart ingredients. So these are ingredients that will help you to give yourself a turbo boost when you're feeling really like you can't do this. So what I mean by that is, let's take an onion. I thought it's my favorite thing to talk about because onions are lethal objects. You try and peel one and chop one, it's like trying to deal with a hand grenade. They're going off all over the place, and trying to cook them is really, really difficult. And onion forms the basis of so many dishes. So I always have a bag of the frozen ready chopped onion in my freezer because it's really helpful. And also you're not wasting lots, so you're only using what you need. Now, yes, they cost a little bit to buy, but actually they're really cost effective over time because you've got that in your freezer. But when I'm really struggling, my hands aren't working, I'll get that out and I'll put it in the pan, and I've got onion ready, chopped and ready to go. On a similar vein, there was a big stigma against frozen ready chopped vegetables, the bags of broccoli and cauliflower and things, and to be fair, a while ago they weren't that great, but now they're picked in the fields at the same time as the fresh. So and they're actually sealed in frozen quick, so they're brilliant. And I use them a lot because it's hard to chop and cook vegetables when you're really struggling with your arms, your hands, or your body. So there's nothing wrong with using these things, and I think they should be celebrated that you've got these in your oven. That's why I call them smart ingredients, because they're giving you a bit of a boost. I'm going to be using another one in a minute, which is ginger puree. So again, ginger is designed to be impossible to peel and grate and chop because it's all knobbly bobbly and all kinds of things. So I have ginger puree in the fridge that I can just use, and you can get these in all the supermarkets. You just use that instead as a squeeze. They do garlic as well, and I'll have stir-fried mixed veg in the freezer because it's really helpful. And when you're really battling against it, just to be able to have that and bring it out, you're still cooking, and you're definitely not cheating. I had a bit of a go at the company Lazy Garlic. You've probably all seen the jars of Lazy Garlic, Lazy Ginger. And I said to them, that might be for some people, but for a lot of people, it's not lazy at all. It's very clever. and it's very smart stuff. So we had a bit of a ding dong, but we got that sorted out anyway. That was another issue. But smart ingredients are just things to give yourself a little boost. Frozen fruit, for instance, is always really good one to have in your kit bag in the freezer just to get it out. One last one before we make something is something, I don't know who likes batch cooking or finds it even possible to batch cook. I used to batch cook a lot. I find it very difficult now. It's so much so now that I actually, when I think of batch cooking, I see Tupperware disappearing off into the distance and lots of big pots of the same thing going on. And that to me is exhausting and tiring and really, and you end up with an awful lot of the same dish. So I call it, instead of batch cooking, a little extra cooking. So if you're making a sauce, like I'm going to make one at the end, then make a little more than you need, maybe a portion more, and keep that in your freezer. And then you'll gradually build up a little stock of little extra bits that you've got. So you'll have lots of different things available to you. Could be a bolognese, could be a sauce, could be some a fruit or whatever. And then just, I forget what I've got in the freezer very, very quickly. So I'll end up sort of wondering what's in there. And you end up with that bag at the back that you've got no idea what it is. And it looks like something you might have made, but you've no idea if it really is. So I just put a little note on the back of my cupboard door that says, in freezer, I've got these things, so I know. And the reason they're really helpful is that on the days when you just cannot cook, and they happen a lot, if you get one of those out of the freezer that you've already made and just warm it up, and you've got a lovely dish. And you should celebrate that dish the same as if you'd made it today, because you made it 3 weeks ago or whenever it was. So again, you're not cheating, you're actually very, very clever, because you knew that this day was going to come when you needed it. So it's just adjusting the mindset to think about how clever you can be in using ingredients, your freezer, etc. So enough rambling, I'm going to make something. So we're going to make some flapjacks. Now, flapjacks are delicious, but they can be crammed full of sugar. One of the things I find very, very difficult is snacking. I'm a snacker. I find it hard, and I do snack a lot. And when you start to snack, you start to snack on the wrong things. So you'll eat a lot of, I eat a lot of biscuits and sweet things. They're great because they give you a little boost of energy, but they then will drop you quite quickly as well. So you'll need more, and then you'll keep coming back for more. What I'm going to show you are some sort of slow release energy, but very, very simple flapjacks. Now, these are banana and maple flapjacks. So they use, I'm going to show you what's in them, but basically I've got some porridge oats. So it's just normal porridge. These are gluten-free because I'm celiac, but they're just porridge oats. So the recipes, you'll get the ingredients, so you'll know what's in them. But basically it's 200 grams of porridge oats. And I'm just going to make it all in this blender, which hopefully you can see. Now, I've got this little mini blender, which is a really small one, and it's great for me because of I can use it and I can lift it. The big ones I find too difficult to hold on to. So this one's just a little mini one. And again, it's just a nice piece of equipment to have. It's really, really useful. Have we got a question, or is there? No, we haven't. Okay. So Nina, will you tell me if there's any questions popping up, please? Thank you. So porridge oats have gone in, and that's 200 grams. Now, what I've got here is just 100 grams, half of soft butter. Now, this butter is, I've had it out of the fridge for about an hour. If you can't, and you just need to get it, use it as it is, if you put it with the maple syrup, which I'm going to show you in a second, and just put it in the microwave for 10 seconds, it'll do exactly the same thing. So it's 100 grams of butter going in. And then maple syrup. Now, maple syrup is a fantastic ingredient because if you get the real stuff, not the sort of concentrate one or ones that using essence, it's a lot healthier than using sugar. Also, honey is very good in this as well. So if you don't like maple syrup, you could put honey in as well. It's really, really useful stuff. Now, with the maple syrup, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons in. Now, I've got these amazing spoons, which I've shown them online before, but I got them. They're actually magnetic, so they all stick together. I've got a whole range of them here, and they all stick together. I don't know if you can see that. But what I really liked about them was that they've got both ends. So on one end, they've got for the wet ingredients, and on the other for the dry. So many times when you're cooking and doing demos, you forget and you do the wet bit first, and then you think, oh my God, I've got to do a tablespoon of the dry stuff now, and it just gets stuck. So these are really clever. They're just, they've got both ends, really good. So 2 tablespoons of maple syrup goes in. And already you can sort of get the smell that's coming. It's fantastic. Now in this, we're going to put a bit of fruit. So I've got some sultanas, 100 grams of sultanas, and they go in. Now you could put in, if you wanted to put in cranberries or any sort of the dried mixed fruit, try and avoid the mixed peel stuff because that's full of sugar. But what would be really nice in these is like the stemmed ginger as well. So you can use stemmed ginger in here just a little bit, not too much because it will blow your head off, but just enough of stemmed ginger would be delicious. You can also do lots of other things. Now, some people always frown at me on this one, but I use chili quite a lot in sweet dishes. Those of you who are at Nadex know that I do strange things in sweet dishes, but I like the bit of just a little bit of heat that you get from chili. You could also put in some little bits of dark chocolate, dark flavored dark chocolate if you wanted. That would be nice in there as well. And I've got 2, as you'll see from these, quite ripe, shall we say, bananas. Now they're very mushy, but we want mushy because they're going to sort of be the binder for everything that's going to happen in here. Now, I'm now going to hope that when I do this, we're going to get. Now, excuse me for a second because we're going to have some noise. But I'm just going to give this a quick whiz, and then I'll be with you. Now, what happens initially is you think this is not going to work. It's sort of all gooped up. I use words like gooped a lot. So let's just give it a prod, give it a poke. And what's happening is that the maple syrup is starting to create the sauce with the butter. And the more you whiz, the better this will get. Get the lid back on, that would be useful. There you go. And then all we're doing is just giving it a little prod and a poke. And if you're finding that it's really not mixing up, what you can do is if it's sort of getting to the point where it's just stuck, put a little bit more liquid in, could be some water, could be a little bit of more maple syrup. Or if it's really not going because the butter's too hard, just pop it in the microwave, just warm it up for 10 seconds and you'll get the same approach. Same thing will happen, it'll be lovely. And then what you end up with is this beautiful mix. Now this is going to have to go in the oven, so this is going to be cooked. So I've just got a tray, just a baking tray with a bit of greaseproof paper on the bottom, and all we're going to do is put that out onto the tray. Now let me just get the rest out. So you'd mix it a bit longer than I am, but if I kept on mixing it, you'd be bored waiting for me to get onto the next bit. So this goes in into an oven. If you've got a fan oven, then 170. If it's not a fan oven, then 190. And for about 20-25 minutes, just keep an eye on it because it can get brown quite quickly because of the maple that's in there. And literally, you just put it onto the tray. That can stay in the fridge for, if you've made it ahead, that'll stay in the fridge for a day if you cover it with some cling film. You could freeze this right now, the mix will freeze perfectly well. And then that comes out after 20-25 minutes in an oven, the most fabulous little flapjacks. These then you can carve them up. And again, once they're cooked, you can freeze them as well. So if you've made a lot and you don't want to start eating flapjacks every day, you can put them in the freezer as well, and they're delicious to have. Now, one of the things I'm very keen on with food is that they have multiple uses, so that you're not just having it for one thing. The thing with these flapjacks is that once you've made them, they can also be the base for a cheesecake. So if you wanted to make a cheesecake, instead of having digestive biscuits and butter, you could use this because they'll work perfectly as a lovely little base if you press them down. You could also use it as a crumble on top of some fruit or some ice cream, so you can break it up. Now you're just using things in a different way, and so I just like to make ways that you can use things a little differently. So that dish was made what start to finish in 2 minutes, and all it does is go in the oven now for 20-25 minutes, and you've got the most amazing flapjack. So this recipe is a base recipe. What you choose to put in it, as long as you've got the right sort of the butter, the porridge oats, and the maple syrup in there, you can add different things. You can put anything you like in it, really, what you like. Because I cook what I like to eat. I don't know what you like to eat. So if you look at this and go, nah, I don't want sultanas, I'll have something else, we'll do it because it's yours now. So you do whatever you like with it and have some fun with it and play about, because hopefully you'll find this a really nice and easy recipe to make all in one. But now you can change it up a bit and make it a bit more interesting, so you don't get bored of eating the same thing over and over again.
Ian, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask you a question? Instead of normal butter, could I use something like almond or peanut butter just for the protein content in it? Because obviously high protein is very beneficial for our service users, as they support muscle.
Absolutely. So I used vegan protein butter actually in this one, which is actually really useful because I've got vegan in the family. But yeah, almond butter, peanut butter would be perfect in this. They'd work just exactly the same way. You might need to increase the liquid a little bit. So you might want to, but I would say if you're using peanut butter or almond butter, just melt it before you put it in. Make sure it's sort of runny. So if you just warm it up briefly in the microwave, it'll be fantastic. And you get a completely new flavor as well. So yeah, and you could use definitely those, put a bit of lemon zest in it as well with peanut butter. It's delicious. So yeah, if you want to change that up, by all means do it. This is just a way, if you use the same weights and measures, you put whatever combination in there that works for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
2 questions. One, did you say vegan butter?
Yes.
Okay. What is there a brand or?
Yes. I'll tell you what, give me 2 seconds. I'll go get it out of the fridge and show you. I'll be back. I'm just throwing it on my phone.
I've not heard of a vegan butter, so that'd be kind of handy.
I was just wondering whether we could put one of these recipes in the magazine.
Yeah, absolutely, which means that I don't have to come up with a recipe, which is great.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
But we could have a sweet and a savoury.
We can put all 3 of them in the magazine, I think.
You can have them all. They're all yours. Do what you can have them and put them in by all means. So this is plant butter by Flora.
Okay.
And they do a salted and unsalted one. This is an unsalted one, obviously, we're using. But yeah, it's just a block of Flora plant butter. It's really good. And actually, so my daughter is vegan by health reasons, and I'm gluten-free. And we decided, well, we'll all go with vegan stuff because it saves you having to buy lots of different versions of stuff.
Yeah.
And this actually is so nice. It's really delicious. So this is in Tesco. Just get it in the normal dairy section, and they've got the vegan bit, and it's 100% plant-based alternative to dairy butter.
Wow, fantastic!
And you can get ones that are also sort of boosted with protein and also with fortified iron as well. So they're really useful to get. So you can get it as a block, or you can get it in a tub. So I buy the block and I keep that in the freezer. And the reason I keep the block in the freezer is that you can grate it. So actually by grating butter, it saves you an awful lot of time when you're making cakes or anything like that, because often the butter will go in one big lump and it won't find its way. But if you grate frozen butter, it goes in. And I'll show you a way of doing that, because you're probably thinking, oh my God, graters and me, I'm terrible with graters. I have terrible time with them. Well, I'll show you a way of doing it that's a lot easier, that's not going to be difficult for the hands. So yeah, good stuff.
And you said it's high protein too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, what I like about some of the vegan stuff now is that initially it was just vegan for vegan's sake, so it didn't have any flavor, whereas now they've actually got some decent tasting stuff. Same with the gluten-free, really. They used to be just gluten-free and it tasted like cardboard, but now it's actually reasonably good stuff, and it's good value for money as well. So it doesn't cost any different to the dairy version.
Okay. And my second question is, where did you get those spoons?
Yeah, well, aren't they good? So I'll show you. Look, you can sort of do like that. So they're magnetized to each other, which I like, because when you get them on the rings, and you end up having to wash all of them because you can't be bothered taking them off the rings. So these just come apart. I got them on Amazon, and they were just called, I think they were just called double-ended spoons, magnetic spoons. And they have the whole range available, from a tablespoon down to an eighth of a teaspoon. And I just think that having one at each end, one for dry, one for wet, is genius. And I'd never seen them before, and I think it's the best thing ever. So I get excited by the smallest things, but they're great.
That's really interesting. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So do we have any more questions on this before I get on to the next part of what we're going to talk about? Are we okay? We're good. So I'm going to talk a bit about nutrition. Now, nutrition is a word that scares me, and I know it scares a lot of people, because you have visions of strange ingredients being brought from Borneo that you can only get on the third Thursday of the fourth year of every whatever. But nutrition doesn't have to be scary. One of the things I talk about with nutrition is that I don't think you can leap from not cooking to nutritious cooking straight away, because nutritious cooking takes a bit more thought and a bit of intrigue, whereas I think you need to just get happy with cooking first, and then you'll naturally start to want to cook a bit more nutritiously anyway. So on that basis, I'm going to just tell you a few ingredients that are fabulous additions to any meal that will boost the nutritional content of it, no matter what it is you're adding it to. So first things first, what is nutrition? Well, nutrition is a balanced diet. If someone says balanced diet, you go, yeah, right, here we go. But what does balanced diet really mean? It just means that you're eating a good selection of fruit, veg, fish, and seeds and nuts, etc. We've all seen that plate with the pie thing on it, with you must have a bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, and that's essentially what it is. What it's really saying is avoid the processed food as much as you can, and so everything from the sort of sugar down to the refined, even the ham that you buy, the sliced ham, unless some of them are made with so much extras in them that you wonder what the actual ham bit is. So just being a little bit aware of processed food versus sort of real food, shall we say. The way I try and look at it is if you think of color. So color is very important to what how you see food. Beige food is beige food, and when you get beige food, you're going to probably not have a huge amount of nutritional value in it, because I'm thinking chicken nuggets, chips, etc. It's all a bit beige. It's lovely, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have it. But if you think colorfully, is that right word? No, it's a word. If you think tomatoes are red, cucumbers are green, you've got spinach, you've got colors popping out, sweet corn, lots of different colors. The more you eat thinking colorfully, the more nutritionally you're naturally going to eat. Now, it's not a set rule, but one of the main rules of nutrition is that anything that's purple is packed full of nutrition. So that goes to everything from purple sprouted broccoli to aubergine to anything purple. Naturally, because of the way the plant is based, will give you a really strong level of nutrition. Now, obviously, you don't want to just eat everything purple, so you want to start adding different flavors in. So even on a salad, if you've got some nice salad with some tomatoes, with some cucumber, add a bit of sweet corn in it or something, a little bit of lemon zest. Think about the colors that you're layering up as well as the flavors. You'll start to be cooking and making nutritionally. Seeds and nuts are brilliant. Some of them are better than others. Some of them are a bit too fatty and can fill you with lots of fat. So just be careful about which ones you're having. So cashew nuts are great, but they do have quite a high fat content, so you just got to watch those. Avocados are also a very good one, but again, avocados, I have two problems with avocados. One is how much they cost in terms of travel to get them from where they're made to us, and also therefore the effect on the planet of having avocados. So I do find them difficult in that sense. But what they're great at is that they're a fantastic way of adding texture to things like a soup or a stew. And you're thinking avocados in a soup or a stew. You take half a ripe avocado and put it into some leftover veg with some stock and whiz it up, you get the most beautiful silky soup. Now, you don't taste the avocado, but you get the creaminess that's given to you without actually adding loads of dairy to it. So you can use avocados as sort of an emulsifier almost to build layers of textures up. And textures are really important when you're thinking about food. If you want to get interested with food and nutrition, you want to think about colors, flavors, and textures. So colors we've talked about, flavors are obviously important, but textures, so you want a bit of crunch somewhere. If it's all a bit soggy, you're not going to like it and you're not going to want to eat it again. So adding little bits of crunch, and it could be some little croutons, it could be some fried onions, it could be anything, but just think about the layers there. Now, there are, as I said, there are some foods and ingredients that are really, really good for nutrition. The first one is cinnamon. So cinnamon is a fabulous spice, and cinnamon is brilliant because it's good at lowering blood sugar levels, and it's also a natural antiseptic. So if you have cinnamon, and I've got cinnamon coming up in the next dish, cinnamon is a great flavor. It sort of reminds you a little bit of Christmas at times and various things, but actually cinnamon can be used in sweet or savory. The Middle East uses cinnamon in most of its tagines, etc. So cinnamon is a very, very popular spice to be used. And if you think about it as a spice, you're more likely to use it in a savory rather than thinking of it as something that has to be in dessert. So cinnamon is fabulous to use in many, many things. Basil, I've got fresh basil here that I'm going to be using in the sauce. Fresh basil is, as well as smelling wonderful, it's really, really good. So it's full of vitamin K and also antioxidants. And again, don't just use these in salads, put them in all sorts of things. They're brilliant. Ginger, I talked about it earlier with ginger puree. Ginger is a fantastic anti-inflammatory. So if you're struggling with your stomach for whatever reason, a little bit of ginger is also great for your insides. Does anyone use turmeric at all? Turmeric is a wonderful thing, but it's also an evil thing because it turns everything yellow. Anything that it goes anywhere near turns yellow. Even if you haven't touched it, it goes yellow. It's unbelievable stuff. But again, turmeric is wonderful. And again, you look at the regions in the world, the Southeast Asia, etc., that use turmeric all the time. Why do they do that? Well, one, it tastes great, but two, it's really good for you. So turmeric, again, is another brilliant anti-inflammatory. And that's why you look at a lot of the health food shops now, turmeric tablets, and turmeric this, turmeric tea, turmeric everything. Well, yeah, but actually, if you can have it in I'm going to put it in one of the sauce I'm going to make in a minute, and you'll see that it doesn't, too much turmeric can taste quite tangy, a little bit, yeah, it's, like when you put too much tomato puree in a dish, it's a bit like, ugh. It can happen with turmeric. You've got to be very careful with it.
Diana, sorry, Ian. Diana, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was going to say the cinnamon and the turmeric. I mean, the cinnamon is great in moussaka, and
Yes.
And turmeric. Well, I just pour in a jar every time I do a curry. And you talk about the ginger paste.
Yeah.
I tend to buy the ginger paste. I tend to buy a root ginger, 500 grams, chop it up, and just put it in the freezer.
Yes. Yeah, it's a brilliant thing, and you can also, if with the ginger, if you put a little bit of olive oil with it and put it in a freezer cube tray with your olive oil and everything, you've got a perfect little, put it in the pan and off you go. It's funny, you do that with garlic as well.
And the same with basil. I buy a bunch of basil, and I just freeze it and just chop it off as I need it. Yeah, absolutely, it's great, and I think having those things in your fridge, in your freezer, just gives you that extra layers of flavor that you've got, and also
you don't have to worry about doing it, at the time. So you've got that in there just to go and get. And you probably only buy them maybe once, every few weeks because you've got that stock of it available for you, which is brilliant. That's really, really good.
Ian, just a little reminder as well, we're about halfway through now.
Okay, thank you. Fresh herbs are wonderful things. So I say I've got basil here. I use probably 3 or 4 main fresh herbs. So basil, coriander. Coriander is not everybody's favorite. I think it's a sort of marmite of the herb world. Some people like it, some people don't. But coriander is a fantastic herb. And I also I like thyme and rosemary. The thyme and rosemary are hard herbs, and basil and coriander are soft herbs. So with the soft herbs, you can use all the stalks and everything. And I really encourage people to use the stalks because they're fabulous. There's a lot of flavor in there. But all these herbs are brilliant antioxidants. They're really, really good in terms of flavor, but also how they're doing for gut health as well. And with thyme and with rosemary, don't use the stalks because it's the woody stalks because they're the hard herbs. But again, you can do exactly the same thing as you're just saying there. You can, if you've got some fresh ones, just put them in a little bit of olive oil if they're turning a little bit, and put them in a freezer ice cube tray, and you've got yourself a little herb oil already made. So, and if you got no sort of room in the freezer, one of the things I love to do is to create little herb oils. So if I've got some herbs left over that are starting to go a bit wilty, I'll just get a jar of something that I've used. It could be a jar of a sauce that I've got. Rinse it out, shove this all in, shove as much herbs as you've got left in it, and then just top it up with olive oil, and you've got the most amazing herb oil that you can just keep using. And the more you use it, the stronger the flavor will get. And so I've got like little rows of these in there. But buying herb oils from the shops can be really expensive. But actually, if you've got some basil left over, just put it in. One of the ones I use, where is it, is one of these. So I use the maple syrup jar bottle because it looks nicer as well. So when that's finished, I'll give it a good clean out, and then I'll shove as much like rosemary or whatever in it and put some olive oil in it, and you've got yourself a lovely looking little bottle of herb oil. So you can use things for lots of different ways. Great on salads, great in all kinds of dishes as an extra flavor boost. So nutrition. We all know that when we're eating the naughty stuff, we're eating the naughty stuff. But I think you can help yourself build up a bit of nutrition within you just by using some fresh herbs, some blueberries. Blueberries are fantastic for your insides as well. And just having a little less of the dairy, of the fat that we were talking earlier about, the butter, could you replace it for peanut and almond? That's a brilliant way of doing it because you're also reducing the level of fats and cholesterol, and your rate sort of increasing the iron levels and the vitamin K as well. So it's just about, I don't think you should jump from one extreme to the other, from not being nutritious to being fully nutritious, because you're going to hate it and you're going to hate the food. You think you're having, you're eating raw kale for the rest of your life. Nobody wants that to happen. So just gradually do it slowly. And I'll show you how we can incorporate some of those into the dish. So I'm going to make another dish now. I'm going to make what are called oat bites. Now, I'm going to use them in the same bowl that I've used here. It's all right, I'm eating it, not you, so it's okay. So I'm going to make some oat bites. Now, they're not flapjacks, they're little sort of power balls that you can make. And these are brilliant because you can make them, freeze them, and you can take them out of the freezer, and within a couple of minutes, they're ready to eat. And they're great little sources of energy, of slow release energy. And again, you can mix them up and do whatever you like with them. So in these, I've got 120 grams of, again, porridge oats. Again, these are gluten-free again for me, but you use whichever ones you prefer. And then I've got some coconut flour. Now, coconut flour is more available than it used to be. It's really, really good stuff because you get the coconut flavor, but also has the binding. If you can't get coconut flour, don't worry, just use desiccated coconut or anything like that will work. And if you can't get any coconut at all, just increase the porridge by a little bit more. Here, all I'm using is 1 tablespoon of coconut flour. So thankfully, I've got the other end available. And coconut flour just adds a lovely extra flavor. And then I've got 120 grams of blueberries. These are fresh blueberries. again, packed full of goodness. They're really, really good for you. Frozen, fabulous as well. They've still got this pretty much the same level of flavor and content. And these are fresh ones. That's going in. And again, if you don't like blueberries, just change it to something you do. Cinnamon. So half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'll try and find the teaspoon amongst all of these ones. There we go. It's half a teaspoon. Cinnamon's wonderful stuff. As you say, I think they're having it in moussaka. It's fabulous. My wife actually puts cinnamon in bolognese, and it sort of turns into a moussaka type flavor, which is really lovely. It's her sort of her thing. And then vanilla extract. Half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now you can get the essence. It's nasty. If you can get the extract, it's a lot better. So again, half a teaspoon of vanilla. And then last, but by no means least, those who saw me at Nadex will know I love these things. Chickpeas. So here I've got some chickpeas. It's just 120 grams of chickpeas. Again, the chickpeas, you won't taste it. They're just there to add a bit of substance and a bit of sort of texture as well. And they go in. And that's it. And then all we do is give it a whiz. Get on. There you go. What happens when you're doing something, the machine decides it doesn't want to do what you want it to do there. So give it a whiz. After the first whiz, just give it a little prod and a poke so you get the dry bits at the bottom. And then literally, I tell you, the smell is incredible because you get the cinnamon, which is just incredible, really lovely smell of cinnamon coming through, and the vanilla, and that's just really lovely. Now, I've got a little tray here that I've lined. Now, all I'm going to do with these is take out, and you think, oh, this is never going to stick together, but actually, if you take them out and do them as freeze together, you end up with these beautiful little balls that you can now put them. These don't need cooking. You literally put them in the fridge like this, and you can create little sort of ball shapes like that. You can see those. Those are the little balls, and they can be eaten straight away. And these, you can, if you put them in the fridge, they'll keep a little firmer. You can put them in the freezer like this. Again, you could use this as a crumble. You could use it for all kinds of things. But what's really nice about these is that you can just, when you're really struggling, you think, I'm really hungry, I just need something. A little bite on this, and you give yourself a chance to be full for a bit. You're giving yourself a slow release of really good energy, and it's packed full. It's got cinnamon, blueberries, porridge, chickpeas. It's all good stuff. So yeah, there's nothing nasty in these, and if you want to, you can change them up again. If you want to put extra little things in, do it. Just watch how much dry to wet you're putting in. But these are fabulous little things. And honestly, once you've made these, you'll be thinking, why have I not done this before? Because they're great and they're really delicious and they smell amazing. Honestly, the smell, I wish you could smell it. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we? That you can't, unfortunately, this is the downside, you can't smell, but they are really lovely. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to put this all in and I'll show you how sort of crumbly it looks. It looks quite crumbly, but actually when you bring it together, it works beautifully as a little sort of balls. And these are wonderful to have for the kids, for you, just available when you need it, when you're really hungry. They're great little things to do. So that is the little oat balls made again in a matter of minutes. Nice and easy, all done. Don't even need to cook them. They're fabulous, really, really good. Any questions on those ones before I move on again? Conscious of time, so I just want to make sure we've got the chance.
One again from me as a coconut hater. I know you said I could put a bit more oats in it if I wanted to, but what about things like there's different types of flours like almond, for example, or hazelnut or whatever.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, they work fantastically well, and it's only 1 tablespoon that's gone in, so it's quite small, but it's just literally there to try and bind everything together. it's a bit like when you're making a stew and you put a little bit, and you put the beef into sort of seasoned flour to begin with. It just gives you that little bit of thickening. So if you want to use almond flour, or you want to use, acorn flour is a great one. Hazelnut flour, anything you want to use is fabulous. I've even done it with chickpea flour, which has got a different name. I can't remember what it's called now. But chickpea flour is wonderful stuff as well. But yeah, anything like that. And if you can't get the flour, then just add a little bit of almond butter again, or peanut butter, and that'll work exactly the same way.
Perfect, thank you.
So I just like making things that are a bit more flexible, that you can do, you can do things with. You can turn them, they can be vegan, gluten-free, whatever you like, and you can mix the flavors up, because there's nothing worse than getting bored with something, because then you're not going to make it again. So the more you can make something and think, oh, what am I going to do with it this time? Just make it a little bit more interesting. So I promised you I'd show you some of the things, the little gadgets and gizmos that I use. Obviously, you've seen the spoons. Yeah, just covered myself in vanilla. That was clever. I'm going to start with my knives. So you've seen these before, some of you, but these are my favorite knives, and they are fabulous. There's just two of them. One's a bread knife, one's a normal knife, and they are wonderful because they're right-angled knives, so they're really comfortable to use. They've got a nice bit of camber on them, so you could rock. And they're just really nice. And what I really like about them is that they don't look like they're knives made for people who need help with knives. They're actually really nice looking things. So these are from a company called Active Hands, which are a UK sort of small family company, and they're wonderful knives. And these are the only two knives I have in my kitchen because they're really easy to use. They've got a good grip. So if you're struggling with hand function, they're really, really useful, or even strength. They're great knives, and they're really, really good for using. On a similar vein, one of the things I struggle quite a lot with is when you're trying to chop or cut up some, like a chicken breast, or you might have some frozen chicken that you need to defrost quickly. They have these scissors, which are sort of special sprung shears, and they're just really helpful. You can only see the size of them, but they're really, really good and strong. And these go through everything. They're unbelievably strong, but you take very little effort to make it happen. So they're really, really good to have a good pair of scissors, so you can use them like you would a knife, but you've got a much more control, and they're a lot safer as well. And then one of my favorite little things is when you're trying to peel or grate. Peeling or grating can be really difficult when you're struggling. So I have this little palm one. So it's a little palm. It just goes between your fingers. Looks like a knuckle duster, which is not so good. But literally, it's just, you then use it and hold it in your hand, and you just stroke the vegetables and peel them. So it's really, really clever little piece of kit. Costs virtually nothing, and really, really helpful to have when you're struggling with holding and grappling with peeling potatoes or whatever. These are really good for. You've probably got these as well, but this little hat, the little rubber hats that go on top of to open up jars. Again, they're really, really good because they give you an extra bit of grip to turn. And again, these things are not expensive, but they're really worth having because it gives you the chance to do stuff that you might not be able to do if you're finding it hard for any reason. That it could be anything to do with strength, with breathing, whatever it is. It just takes away some of that extra worry that you've got that I might not be able to open these things. One of my favorite little bits of kit, and I never used to have one, but I have now, is a meat thermometer. I used to think these were a bit like, oh, I'm not a chef, why would I have one of them? But as I was saying earlier, I forget so many things. When the brain fog hits, I don't know what I'm doing. And one of my biggest fears is serving raw, or chicken or whatever, or beef or whatever. So if you get one of these, you literally just shove it in, and it tells you whether it's done or not. So it just takes away a lot of the worry that you might have. Literally, you can actually leave these inside the oven as well, and leave it in, and you can put it to the inside of the door, so you can see exactly how well done they are. And it just takes away those little layers of fear and anxiety that you might have about cooking and delivering food for people. It just stops you from thinking, is it cooked? Is it not? Well, you're going to know. And it literally is a probe that goes in anything, and you can set it to do dairy, everything that you've got in the oven. It has a little thing, and they're great little gizmos to have. So they're some of my favorites. One of my probably my all-time favorite gadget is a steamer. And I talk a lot about steamers. Steamers are brilliant because when you're trying to make or cook vegetables on the stove with boiling water, it's dangerous, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So a steamer, it keeps that away from you. So the boiling water is underneath a little platform, it's all kept away. Also, you can layer up what you're steaming. So you can have veg, you can have rice, you can have chicken, you can have fish, whatever you like. Best thing about them all is they've got a built-in timer as well. So you turn them on, put the timer on, and it tells you when it's finished. They're brilliant. So I use a steamer a lot now because it's safer for me. I feel a lot safer. It's also safer from kids who are running around with, you know, if you've got stuff on a hot stove, you tip the pan, boiling water, it's bad. So having a steamer, it's nice, and you can see it. And also, when you're boiling vegetables, etc., you lose quite a bit of the nutritional value. Whereas steaming it, you lose a lot less of the nutritional value as well. So steamers are a bit more of an outlay, but they're really, really brilliant. If you get one, I've had one that it's so old, it's unbelievable, but it still works. And I use it a lot. So when you're doing like a Sunday dinner or whatever, all the veg is in there, all layered up, and it's just all in one place. It's also easier for the washing up because you haven't got loads of hot pans to worry about. So steamer, great. If you can get one, fabulous. If not, don't worry. But I just really like the steamer. They're really, really great. So I'm going to make a savory dish now. This is my all-time favorite sauce. It's the best sauce I ever make, and it's also probably the easiest sauce I'll ever make. But I love it. You're not going to like this, Ian, if you don't like coconut, but there you go. Never mind. Hey ho. I'll show you a way that you can do it differently, though, which will work for you. So I'm going to make it's called a curry sauce, but it's not really a curry sauce. It's a coconut and herb sauce, and you can use it for all kinds of things. It's great for a soup. It's great to put noodles in. You know, if you're like building up like a little dinner party or whatever, you have this sauce in the middle, all nice and hot. Have some noodles, some spring onion, some sliced bits of veg, and then people can build their own sort of, you know, little meals on top. It's great with fish, with salmon, with all kinds of fish. It's great with chicken. Honestly, once you've had it, you will not go back. It's the best. So I'm going to show you what's in it. Now, what we've got, because it's coconut and basil, there is coconut and basil. So I've got 2 cans of coconut milk. Now, cans are hard work because they've either got the ring pulls on them like these ones have, or they don't, and you have to have, you know, so a can opener. So that one of the last piece of kit I use a lot is this little one-touch can opener. So you literally just stick it on top, press the button, and it goes round. Now, if you've got the ones with the ring on the top, what you just do is turn it the other way up and give it a shake first. Literally stick it on, press go, and it's going round. It's actually quite therapeutic to watch. And it goes round, takes the top off, and when it's finished, it'll tell me. There we go. And then all you've got is it's stuck to the magnet, which is inside. If it decides to stop, there we go. There we go. So it's stuck to the magnet, which is there, and then it comes off, and it actually doesn't take any sharp edges as well, so you can actually rub your finger around it, doesn't it? Very clever. So I've got 2 cans of coconut milk going in. Now, if you want to give it a good shape, do, but one of the things I like with coconut, I don't know if people use cans of coconut milk or not, but actually it separates into two layers, so you get the sort of water at one end, and then you get the cream at the other. If you shake it up, obviously put it in. But what's really nice to use, the coconut water is great for using in desserts, but also the cream, if you sort of take the cream bit off the top, you can use that as like an instant cheesecake topping. So if you mix some blueberries through it, you've got a great topping to sit on top of the, you know, what you've made. It wouldn't be great for you, I'm sorry, but it is coconut. But again, so this one I'm using my hands if I can. But they are not easy, are they, these things? Oh. And then goes the second can. I'm making such a mess here, it's brilliant. Oh, there we go. The 2 cans have gone in, and then I've got basil and a lot of it. So I've got 2 big sprigs of basil here, and one would be enough, but I like it quite basil-y, so I'm going to put them both in. And you know, what's the worst that can happen? Tastes a bit too basil-y, but well, I like it. So literally, just put the whole lot in, stalks and all. Everything goes in. You shove it in. The whole lot goes in. Then ginger paste. So again, I'm using my ginger paste, and I'm just using a tablespoonful. I've actually used both, stupidly, I've used the wet for both ends of my tablespoon. So I'm just going to have to get it. So I'm going to put in a tablespoon of ginger. And then the juice of a lime. So I'm going to use my little whizzer knife just to chop this up. Squeeze, I don't know about you, but I find it very hard to squeeze lemons and limes. It just doesn't work very well. So I use one of these little areas here. They're really good because they keep the seeds stay inside it, and you just push it in and give it a twist, and it sort of gets all the. If you're struggling with lemons and limes and they feel like they're a little hard, just again, you can stick them in the microwave for 10 seconds, and it makes them a lot easier, and all the juices come out a lot more. So if you're finding that the limes are a bit tough, just stick them in the microwave, and you'll find all of a sudden the juices are a lot easier to get out. So again, we've got 1 lime, and then lastly, I'm just going to get my hands on white.
Instead of fresh lime, could I use, you know, the little like bottles of lime juice, lemon juice instead?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Yeah, it's just the same. Yeah, it works exactly the same. What you could do if you're using the fresh lime, before you chop it and squeeze it, just zest it, take the zest off, and then again you can put that in a little bag and put that in the freezer. And it's nice to have that. So because once you've obviously squeezed it, it's very hard to get the zest off. So if you do it first and you're not using it in the dish, just zest it and put it in a little bag, and then you've got these little flavors that you can drop into things. So talking about that cheesecake, if you use the top of the coconut cream with some blueberries and a bit of lime zest, you've got a great little topping to go on top of anything. So it's a great one. So lastly, I've got some turmeric, just half a teaspoon of turmeric. As I say, it's quite powerful stuff, and it will turn everything yellow. And that is it. Honestly, that's all that's on it. It's it. It's coconut, 2 cans of coconut milk, some basil, ginger, lime, and turmeric, and that's all it is. And I'm just going to give this a whiz up. Now, my family is going to get the strange flavour of flapjacks in this sauce, but hey, you know, that's what happens. Now, for some reason, it's not to work. Okay. Away. You love it when things are like that. I'm going to need to whiz it a bit more, but obviously you don't want to be listening to that all day. But what you get is this amazing smelling curry sauce. Now, I like to leave the herbs chunky. Otherwise, you know, you can turn it completely green if you want to. But actually having the herbs, this now, all you need to do is just warm that up. Just put that in a pan and warm it up, put it in the microwave to warm it up. And it is the best little sauce you'll ever have. Now, you can have it as a little, sort of almost like a dressing if you wanted on some steamed chicken or veg. You could just pour a little bit on top. You could have it as the main sauce. This freezes, again, you can put it into little bags, have it, you know, in your freezer for when you need a sauce for anything like that. Once you've got this base, you might want to put more ginger in than I have. You might want to put less in. You might want to put less basil, more, whatever. Just once you get the flavor that you like, then you can start to play about with it a little bit. The turmeric's great because it just gives it a little bit of, it's not so like vivid white that coconut is. And the turmeric's also great for your insides along with that. If you struggle with coconut, which clearly some do, then you can still make this sauce. Now, all I would do is you use a mixture of water, and then you can use either almond butter with water, and it will mix up really nicely. And if you use that instead, you get a slightly different flavor, but it's actually really nice. It's almost like moving towards the Middle Eastern type flavor. So turmeric, almond, It's beautiful to have it like that with water, and just you'll find the balance that you like in terms of the mixture of water to whatever. If you wanted to use almond milk, that would work perfectly as well, instead of, you know, coconut milk. Again, brilliant. So just use the flavors that you like. And again, if you don't like coconut milk or almond milk, you can use oat milk, you can use whatever. But the thing with coconut is it's got a sort of a flavor to it. Almond's got a flavor to it. Some of them don't. So you might need to up the levels of ginger and herbs, whatever. But honestly, it's very easy to make. It's really simple. It works on just about everything and anything. So tonight I'm going to have this with the family, and I'll probably do it as like a little sort of like a noodle bowl. So have some noodles in the bottom, various bits of things on top. Kids can build their own. Pour a little bit of this on, nice and hot. It's fantastic, and it feels like an occasion. People think like, oh, it's like when you're out at a restaurant and you've got all the little bits, but it takes seconds to make, and you can keep it for ages. And honestly, it is the most delicious sort of, called a curry sauce, but it's not really, little sauce that you'll ever make. It's wonderful stuff. So that's the end of the dishes. How are we doing for time?
We've got about 20 minutes left, just over.
So what I thought we could do is I can carry on gibbering on for hours. You know what I'm like. I would carry on talking. All I would say to you is we'll have some time for questions now, but what I would like you to take from this, if you can, is that cooking doesn't have to be difficult. Cooking doesn't have to be clean and tidy. If you could see what was going, you could probably see some of it. If you see what was going on down here, you'd be like, oh my God. But that's part of the fun. People get very worried about the end product of cooking, i.e. that's the bit that's the most important, but you forget about all the fun you've had getting there. So I got asked a question about how do you cope with when things go wrong? And I said, well, they do go wrong. Of course they do. I mean, I make things all the time and they don't turn out like I hoped or like I thought. But if I just focus on that bit, I destroy all the fun I've had getting there and all the enjoyment I had of reaching that point. So I try now and remember, I'm going to take a photo of all of this carnage that's going on here. And that will remind me of that joyous time I've had talking to you, because it's wonderful. I just love doing this sort of thing. I'm not a chef. I'm just someone who enjoys cooking, who's found a way of using things that I really enjoy. And if you can make cooking something like an event in your day that is something to celebrate rather than something you cram into all the other things that you're doing, it becomes something that you become more proud of, more achieved from it. So often you'll find that, oh my God, it's coming up to dinner time, I've got to do something. And there you're immediately thinking cooking is a bad thing, it's something you've just got to do. Whereas if you plan your day that says, right, today I've got to do X, Y, Z, and X is cooking, then you start to see it slightly differently as something that's really something you're achieving and something you're doing, something part of your happiness, and give you that joy, give you that feeling of, wow, I've just made this. And even if it turns out absolutely rubbish, which it does happen, it doesn't matter. The fact is that you've done it. And I think I try, my kids now have had years of me not being around. I miss birthdays, Christmases, I miss school events, missed all these sort of things. And now they see me trying to make food. And they're just like, this is great. This is like, I've not seen Dad for years. This is wonderful. So if you start to think of food as something way bigger than just you're making it, it's actually, people start to think, whoa, hey, he's having a go at something. This is brilliant. Get them involved, get people going with you if they want to have a go. And you think, I just, look at this, it's fantastic. If you made it 3 weeks ago and you get it out of the freezer, celebrate the hell out of it, because it's you made it. And that's what I'm trying to say is there will be days you can't do anything, and there will be days you can do more. But you can still cook during those days, even if you're just heating something up that you made 3 weeks ago. It's still cooking. You should still be really proud of yourself, and you should still celebrate the heck out of it, because that will make you feel a bit more like, oh yeah, and look at me, I'm cooking. So try and make it a happy event, not something that you really don't want to do. If you take away from here one little thing, then I'm really happy. And hopefully you might think, oh, maybe I could have a try at that or have a try at this. That's all I can ask for. Genuinely, I don't know all the answers. I just try and do what I do, and hopefully something will resonate with you. If you've enjoyed it, great. If you haven't, what's the worst thing that's happened? You've just spent an hour listening to me ramble on. Hey, well, yeah, there we go. So please, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions at all, let's just open it up and see where we go with it. Because I love the bit where we just sort of see what happens. It could be about anything. It could be about shopping or anything. If there's anything you want to ask, please do.
Well, I'm gonna start the questions. You earlier said that you have your own cookbook.
Yeah.
If any of our service users are interested in buying it, where do we get it from? Amazon, or do you have a website where you sell it from, or?
Yeah, so it's called Cookfulness and it's on Amazon because I self-published it, so it's only available online. So it's on Amazon, Waterstones, and Goodreads have all got it. What I would say with Amazon, so on my website, which is www.cookfulness.co.uk, there is a link, but it takes you to the Amazon site. What I would say is watch it, because you know what they're like. Sometimes they're charging like £12.50 for it, and then 2 days later it's £8. So just keep an eye on it. It does drop sometimes. So if you want to get, you can also get it as an ebook as well, so which is obviously a lot cheaper. But yeah, so you can get it on Amazon, Waterstones. You can order it on Waterstones and they'll get it into the store for you, which is also good, I think.
Perfect. Anyone else got any questions at all?
Who's doing the washing up?
Right.
No, well, like I say, it's not really a question, but the bit that I like the most was basically one of the last bits you've just said, is that actually think of it of something that you've done rather than something that you've got to do. Oh, I cook some food. If you think of something, actually, yes, I've achieved this, I've done this. That I think that's one thing I like.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think you forget, because it's hard. You know, it taxes you physically and mentally to cook. And if you have it sort of squashed into all the other stuff that you've achieved, you forget that. So, you know, and what I would say is, once you start to do that, tell everybody else that that's what you're doing, because then they'll buy into it as well and go, hey, like, you did some cooking today. That's brilliant. Well done. Rather than, he did all these other things. Oh, and he did that as well. So yeah, it's just a little bit of different mindset, really.
Anyone else got any questions at all or comments? Anything at all in terms of food, nutrition, cooking, utensils, kitchen aids, whatever?
Well,
Yeah.
I think the one observation I would make, and it's really just come from life experiences in cooking. There are lots of things out there in jars and tubes, but you know, if you buy the fresh ingredients, quite often you can just chop them up, freeze them. You know, like the garlic, like the ginger, and chilies, even a bag of chilies.
Yeah.
And it's much more cost effective. You know, buying a tube of ginger or a jar of ginger, I think, terribly expensive. But if you have the courage to just look at it and think, oh, I can freeze this, because the freezing process even softens some of the root vegetables, and they become easier to chop.
Yeah.
And the flavour's better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the freezer is very sort of maligned at times, but actually, if you use it to store a lot of things, and you can get the little, as I say, you put them in the ice cube trays, you can buy the little recyclable compost bags and stick them all in, and then you have them all lined up, and then there you've got some ready-made sort of flavors and everything, haven't you? It's all done, and you just think this, and then you just replenish it when you need it, and you just add a bit more. So that's brilliant. That's such a great piece of advice.
And don't ever throw your ripe bananas away. Put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
And then you've got a lovely smoothie with a bit of coconut or milk. You know, just never throw your ripe bananas away.
No, I totally agree with you. It really gets my back up when people, oh, that's a bit brown, I have to chuck it out. No, you don't. You either, as you say, freeze it, but chop it up and put it in the freezer, and then or make a smoothie there and then. It's fantastic. So a lot of food you can do that with. I think that's brilliant. So thank you for that.
Anyone else?
if you think of anything or you didn't want to ask, then you can always drop me an email. So on my website, you can send me an email that just comes straight to me. So if there's anything you want to ask that you didn't want to ask here, or just drop me a note and I'll get back to you.
I'm quite happy to include your website link in the email that I will send out to everyone if that's helpful to you guys. Yeah, and then you
Yes.
can. Sorry.
If you put the recipes in the magazine, you can put it in there too, huh?
Yeah.
The website, because that's really,
If
it's
you have
really good, Ian. Thank you so much. All these really handy tips and ideas for quick, easy things to do, because it takes time, you know, and
Yeah,
thought.
I think it's sort of just almost forgetting a lot of the stuff that you sort of get drilled into. This is the way that things have to be done. But actually, why you just do them? You know, if you can make things like dishes like this sat at a kitchen table, if someone can move it for you, you feel a bit more relaxed as well. You feel a little bit more, I can do this, I've got more time. Get the music going, get your music playing. I play music all the time because I just find it makes me happier. So why would you not? So, you know, there's lots of ways you can help yourself with the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the inspiration.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's what I found useful, because I struggle to like make decisions, you know, when I'm shopping or when I'm thinking, what have I got to make? And I end up kind of not bothering because I can't kind of think about it. But then when you've got someone in front of you, you know, making something, and it's like, oh yeah, I really want to give that a go. So I'm really keen to give a go the sauce that you made, because I've never had basil with coconut before.
Yeah, and it's just and you might try it and go, no, that's not for me, but that's fine, you know. And I think it's just having that little impetus to give it a try, and then it's just a case of then adapting it. You might want to spice it up a bit or not. It's up to you. So yeah, it's just again, it's all ideas. I see what as I said earlier, what I like might not necessarily be what you like, but if you've got something that you can start from, then you can start to change it your way and my way. So. On the website, there's loads of videos of free recipes and stuff. So, you know, whenever you've sort of got a few minutes, you can have a look, and there's loads of videos of me making lots of different dishes, which might again give you a little idea of something that you quite want to make yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
one thing that stuck with me that you said, actually not today, but last week at NADEX, was about your cookbook and your cookbook not having pictures in it, and
Yeah.
the end product is perfect regardless. It's perfect for you and for what you've done. That really struck a chord, that not everything has to be picture perfect like in the book, and you don't have to compare that to a photo that is probably staged and enhanced in so many ways. And that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I just found that when I was using cookbooks and I was struggling, that I thought it immediately told me I couldn't make it because it was too good almost. So I took the bit of a bold decision to not put the pictures in there, just to it sort of comes down, whatever you make, it's right. It's really the point I'm trying to make, and it doesn't matter what it comes out like, and it doesn't matter that the fact is that you've made it, and it doesn't, if it looks nothing like the one in the book, you think, well, what did I do wrong? But actually, you've probably done nothing wrong. It's just the way that the book's done with, as you say, it's got these sprays on it to make it look super duper. So yeah, there's no pictures in there apart from some little drawings of chickens and things. But apart from that, yeah, you just, and then whatever you produce, as far as you're concerned, it's the right answer. And why should that not be the case?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. It's very inspirational.
I must go now, I'm afraid.
That's
Okay.
fine, Diana. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I was going to say, if you guys don't have any further questions for Ian, I know we're about 10 minutes short of the session ending anyways, but if you're happy and there is no more that Ian, you would like to add, or you guys want to ask, then we can all go away and cook.
Yay. Yeah, and it'd be great to see, having a go and just start a little conversation about what did you try, and then you learn lots of stuff. So I've learned stuff today, so it's brilliant. You never stop learning, so it's nice to see how you get on with it and share that. Even if it goes horribly wrong, I think that's quite fun as well.
This is absolutely true. Well, thank you so much, Ian, for joining us today, for taking the time out of your busy day,
You're welcome. I
doing this
enjoyed
little
it.
demo with us. It's absolutely appreciated. And thank you guys for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's been fantastic. Hopefully, I'll get to see you in person soon.
I hope
That
so.
would be lovely.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
evening, you guys.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Mm.